I adopted Max on a cloudy Saturday in March. The shelter was holding an adoption event in the parking lot of a PetSmart in Beaverton, Oregon. My plan had been simple: buy dog food for my sister's lab, grab a coffee, maybe browse the plants at the garden store next door. I hadn't imagined leaving with a dog of my own. But there he was. A mixed-breed shepherd with one ear that stood up like an antenna and one that flopped lazily to the side. His fur was patchy in places, his frame a little too lean, and his brown eyes, they were steady, but tired. He sat quietly at the back of his crate while other dogs barked, whined, and pawed at the gates. The volunteer, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and a fleece vest, noticed me lingering. She crouched beside Max's crate. "This is Max," she said softly. "He came from a neglect case. We don't know his exact age, maybe 5 or 6. He's a good boy, but he needs someone patient. Someone who doesn't mind that he's still figuring out how to trust." I knelt down. Max didn't move toward me, but his eyes followed my every motion. That should have been the moment I walked away. I had no bed for a dog, no toys, no bowls, not even the faintest plan. Instead, I found myself asking if I could take him for a short walk. 15 minutes later, I was signing adoption paperwork at a folding table in the drizzle. The first evening, Max didn't explore much. He stayed near the doorway of the living room, lying with his paws tucked under him like a cat. I put down a bowl of water, a scoop of food from the bag the shelter had given me, and a blanket on the floor. That night, I woke up to find him at the foot of my bed, not sleeping, just watching the door as though keeping guard. In the weeks that followed, we settled into something like a rhythm. Morning walks before work, a shorter loop after dinner. He didn't pull on the leash, didn't bark at strangers, but he was wary, especially of men with loud voices or sudden movements. It took him nearly 2 months to accept treats from my hand without hesitation. I started to learn his language, the way he tilted his head when he was curious, the small huff he made when he was ready to go outside, how his ears would twitch toward every new sound. By late spring, Max had gained weight. His fur filled in, soft and thick under my fingers. He'd begun greeting me at the door with a slow wag of his tail as though saying, "I'm glad you're back, but I won't make a big deal about it." The neighborhood started to notice him too. People who'd never spoken to me before now stopped to ask his name, to scratch his head, to tell me about their own dogs. I didn't realize it at first, but Max was slowly dismantling the quiet walls I'd built around my life. It happened in early November. I'd fallen asleep on the couch watching some forgettable late-night show. The house was silent, the kind of deep stillness you only get in the early hours. Then at 2:17 a.m. Max barked. It wasn't a curious bark or an alert to a raccoon outside. This was different, sharp, urgent, like an alarm. I sat up, heart pounding. He was standing in the hallway, ears forward, tail stiff. When I didn't move quickly enough, he barked again and bolted toward the kitchen. That's when I smelled it. A faint hiss, a sickly sweet scent like rotten eggs. The stove. One of the burner knobs must have been nudged just enough to release gas without igniting. I didn't know how long it had been leaking. I twisted the knob back to off, threw open the windows, and stood there in the freezing air, trembling. Max stayed beside me the whole time, his flank pressed against my leg, his steady presence grounding me. The next morning, the what-ifs hit me like a wave. If I'd stayed asleep, if Max hadn't woken me. When I told my sister what had happened, she was quiet for a long moment before saying, "Sounds like you saved each other." And she was right. When I'd adopted Max, I thought I was giving him a second chance at life. But it turned out he'd given me one too. After that, my bond with Max deepened in a way I can't quite explain. I started involving him in more of my life, weekend hikes, trips to the farmer's market, coffee runs where the barista slipped him a biscuit through the drive-through window. People seemed to gravitate toward him. He had a calmness that put others at ease, and in turn, those moments drew me out of my own shell. I began hosting small backyard gatherings, something I hadn't done in years. Neighbors came, kids played with Max, and the air filled with a kind of warmth I'd forgotten existed. It's been over a year now. Max still sleeps at the foot of my bed, still keeps an eye on the kitchen as if remembering that night. But the biggest change isn't in my home, it's in me. I'm no longer the person who avoided connection. I'm part of a community now, and it started with one quiet, watchful dog who decided I was worth protecting. And every time I look into his brown eyes, I'm reminded. I rescued him, and he rescued me right back.